Over these past years of watching YouTube, I've watched a lot of YouTubers and entrepreneurs talk about their morning routines. How many of them wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, go work out, head to the office for work, come home, and continue to work until the moment before they go to sleep. Then they wake up and do it all over again every single day. And being what I would like to call myself a normal person, it seems a bit absurd and unrealistic. Like, how can someone work that hard every single day? It seems crazy to me. But at the same time, I'm curious to learn how they do it. So I decided to look into how to improve my own work ethic because looking at all these successful entrepreneurs and the life they have, it seems like it's clearly worked out for them. So here are a few things I've learned about mentalities and practices that may help you become more productive and get more done. But before we get into it, I wanted to define the term work ethic. So work is defined as how much physical or mental energy you put into something to achieve a specific goal. And ethic in this case is defined as the science of morals, or it's the science of a person's standards as to whether or not something is acceptable or not acceptable to them. And putting them together, work ethic is defined as the standard of work that you put into working towards a specific goal. But now that we've defined the term, let's jump into the 3 points that I think might be able to improve your work ethic. And the first point that I have is to do it now. If none of us ever procrastinated, we would all become productivity machines. But sadly, that's just not the case. We put off tasks more often than we'd like. And it's not just the difficult big projects, it's the small ones too. We put off cleaning our closet, cleaning our desk, doing the laundry, and even putting away our dishes. And for me, I tend to put off these easy tasks because I think they're easy and they won't take a lot of time. And so for some reason, I can convince myself that I'll just do it later. But since that's the case, it's also exactly why I should just finish the task then and there. So I would say that if you have a task that takes 5 minutes or less to complete, just force yourself to do it right as you think about it. And if we end up doing these small tasks throughout the day right as we think about them, it'll add up and we'll end up being so much more productive. But now that we've gone through the small tasks, what about the bigger tasks? And best case scenario, I would tell you to just start it. And if you do have that kind of discipline, good for you. Keep doing this and you'll be on the path to peak productivity. But I also know that not everyone has a sense of urge to want to finish everything right away. So I would say, if you can, tell yourself that you're going to do what you say you're going to do right away. And like with every new developing habit, it's going to be extremely hard at first. But if you can stick with it, this will be the start of developing a good work ethic because you'll be tackling tasks as soon as you get them, thereby finishing them earlier so you can move on to the other tasks on your to-do list. But again, not everyone's like this. So if you aren't that type of person, find someone who can keep you accountable. Someone who can make you do the things that you need to do right away, and who can also keep you on track and motivate you. As humans, we won't feel in the mood or we won't want to be productive every single day. But if there's someone behind you, pushing you to start and keep working, you'll look back at the end of the day feeling accomplished. And my second point is to allow imperfection. And there's a popular saying that says, practice makes perfect. And there's also a saying that isn't true because in order to be perfect, you have to practice perfectly. And with so many things, especially if it's something new, we come up with all these excuses to delay what we need to get done. For some reason, we always think that there's going to be a perfect opportunity, a specific time where if we do it then, we'll have the greatest chance of success. Like if you were playing basketball, there's going to be that perfect moment where there's no one defending you and your teammate happens to pass the ball to you. A time where you'll be able to line up the shot perfectly, shoot the three-pointer, and make the winning shot. Or if you're in high school and you're trying to find the perfect time to tell your crush that you like them. You think there's going to be those few minutes where there's no one around and you'll have everything you want to say practiced perfectly. And if you tell her then and there, you'll have the greatest chance of success. And I'm not intentionally trying to burst your bubble, but rarely do these occasions happen. And from my personal experience, if you keep making these kinds of excuses, even if you somehow do come across this perfect opportunity, you'll end up thinking that there's going to be a better one if you just wait a bit longer. And so you'll just keep putting it off and end up never doing it. And the solution to this? Don't worry about being perfect, because rarely does someone hit the ground running, especially when they first start out. Let's take starting a YouTube channel for example. I can guarantee that there would be a lot more YouTubers on the platform if none of them were worrying about putting out the perfect video right off the bat, or caring about what their friends would think of them if they put themselves in front of the camera. And the hard truth is, if you want to be perfect at something, or at the very least close to it, you're going to need to take that first step and take action. And most of the time, that first step isn't going to be pretty. But like many have said before, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And even if you start out horribly, you'll be much further ahead than the person who didn't even bother trying. And my third point is to train. Just like you would go to the gym to train your muscles and get strong, the more you use your brain, the stronger it gets. So if you continuously practice focused work, over time, it'll get progressively easier for you to get in the zone. It's undoubtedly going to be hard at first, especially when you aren't used to it. So start small. Work 10 minutes and rest 5. Then maybe work up to 30 minutes with a 5-minute break. Then maybe an hour of work and a 10-minute break, and so forth. But also, don't go to the extreme with this, like end up doing 3 hours of work with no break. Even though everyone is different, I found that there's a certain threshold to where if I focus for too long, I can feel that my brain needs a break. And it's a pretty obvious feeling. Just like when you're working on your muscles, they have a certain rep count before you can't do anymore. But on the other hand, also make sure to not make your breaks too long. Just because you've worked for 2 hours doesn't mean that you can take an hour break. Keep your breaks long enough to where you feel you've taken a breather and can keep working, and short enough to where you feel as though you've actually had a break. Going back to the muscle analogy, if your breaks are too long between sets, you don't put enough strain on your muscles in a condensed amount of time for them to grow. My point being, if you intentionally practice focused work day in and day out, even when you don't feel like doing it, eventually it's going to get easier and easier. And I want to end this with something that I heard a while back that really got me thinking and motivated me. It was something along the lines of, the harder you work for something shows how much you want it. And at least for me, this made a lot of sense. Let's say, for example, that you came from a poor household growing up. It's going to motivate you to succeed because you already know what it's like being poor. So for the rest of your life, you know that you don't want to live in the same conditions. And in comparison, if you grow up in a wealthier family, even though you may still want to succeed for different reasons, it might not be as strong of a catalyst when compared to the poor individual. And when I heard this quote, it made me think about the things that I want to achieve in my life. And I thought, if I want this thing bad enough, whether it be buying a house for my parents, or being able to afford that sick car, or maybe just a stable financial future, if I want these things bad enough, I should be willing to go through the grind and the hardship that it's going to take in order to achieve these things. And the hard work that I put in should show how much I want to achieve that goal. So if you have your goals written down and remind yourself daily why you're doing what you're doing, while also keeping this saying in mind, it'll motivate you to focus on your work ethic and improving it. At least, this is what has worked for me. But those are my thoughts on how to improve your work ethic. Hopefully at least one of these points inspired you to take action. If this information helped you out in any way, it will really help me out if you click the like button below. And if you made it to the end of the video, you clearly didn't find me too boring. So go ahead and click the subscribe button below. It really means a lot. But that's been it for this one. I'll see you very soon in the next video.